Stop chasing and let silence do its honest work. And I know your whole body will resist that, because when someone pulls away, your instinct is to close the gap, to fix the distance, to reach for clarity like it's a life raft. Your mind tells you that one more message could change everything, that one more explanation could make them understand, that one more, "I just wanted to check in," could bring them back. But in avoidant dynamic, chasing is not love, chasing is fuel. It keeps the cycle alive. It gives them the comfort of knowing they can retreat and still be followed. And I want to say this with compassion, because you didn't chase because you were weak. You chased because you cared. You chased because you didn't want to lose someone you loved. You chased because you believed that if you showed enough patience, enough understanding, enough devotion, they would finally feel safe and stay. But every time you chase an avoidant, you teach their nervous system the same message. Closeness equals pressure. Closeness equals demand. Closeness equals responsibility for someone else's emotional state. And when that message lands, they don't come closer, they pull away harder. So the first keynote is a decision. You stop chasing fully, not as a trick, not as a countdown, not as a silent punishment, as a return to dignity, as a clean, calm choice that says, "I will not chase someone into valuing me. I will not beg someone to show up. I will not keep writing paragraphs to someone who keeps answering with distance. I will not keep breaking my own heart just to keep a connection alive." And this is where silence becomes powerful, because silence is not empty, silence is information. Silence shows you what they do when they are not being pursued. Silence shows you whether they have the capacity to come toward you without you pulling them. Silence shows you whether their space was a genuine need or a convenient way to keep control. Silence reveals the truth, and truth is what you need more than reassurance. Because when you chase, you blur the truth. When you chase, you become the bridge, and then you can't tell if they would ever cross on their own. When you chase, you fill the space that would have shown you whether they miss you, whether they value you, whether they have any discomfort about losing you. Your chasing becomes the relationship, and you end up exhausted, confused, and resentful because you're doing all the work while calling it love. So stopping the chase is not about making them suffer. It's about stopping yourself from suffering. It's about removing the comfort of half access. It's about ending the dynamic where they can withdraw and still have you waiting in the background. It's about letting your absence be real, not dramatic, but real. Because an avoidant doesn't feel loss when you're still energetically present, sending messages, checking stories, hovering, hoping. They feel loss when the door is quiet, when your energy is no longer available on demand, when your attention is no longer orbiting them. Now, the part that makes this emotional is the withdrawal you will feel in yourself. Because if you've been chasing, your nervous system is addicted to relief. Relief is the moment they reply. Relief is the moment they give you a crumb of warmth. Relief is the moment you stop panicking for a second. And the chase creates the craving, and the reply creates the relief, and that cycle becomes addictive, not because you're foolish, but because your body is trying to regulate itself through their attention. So when you stop chasing, you will feel restless. You will feel the urge to reach. You will feel the itch to fix it. And that is where your strength is built. You sit with the itch and you don't scratch it. You breathe. You ground yourself. You remind yourself, I am not going to abandon myself to stop feeling uncomfortable. I will let discomfort pass without turning it into a message. Because if you can do that, you break the cycle. You stop being controlled by their silence. You stop being held hostage by their distance. And here is what happens when you truly stop chasing. Either they step toward you, or they don't. And both outcomes give you a life back. If they step toward you, you finally see effort that is not pulled out of them by your anxiety. You see intention. You see choice. You see them moving without being dragged. If they don't step toward you, you finally see the truth you've been cushioning, that the connection was being held together by you. And yes, that hurts, but it's a clean hurt, not the slow bleeding of months spent hoping. Silence does its honest work when you stop interfering with it. Silence shows you their priorities. Silence shows you their emotional capacity. Silence shows you whether they feel the absence. Silence shows you whether they respect the boundary. Silence reveals whether they only like the convenience of your availability, or whether they actually value you enough to show up. And if they reach out during this silence, this is where most people ruin it. Because they respond with urgency. They respond like someone who has been starving. They pour their emotions out. They reward the smallest effort with the biggest access. And then the avoidant learns, I can disappear and still return to full comfort. The cycle restarts. So if they reach out, you stay calm. You respond simply. You don't punish. You don't chase. You let their effort build over time, not over one message. You require reality, not words. You let them prove consistency, not just make contact. Because the goal is not to get a text. The goal is to change the dynamic. The goal is to stop rewarding retreat with pursuit. The goal is to stop teaching them that your love is guaranteed, no matter how they behave. The goal is to protect your heart from repeating the same pattern with the same person in a new phase. So let silence do its work. Let the space be space. Let your absence be real. Let your energy return to you. Because the most powerful thing you can do with an avoidant is not to chase them into closeness. It is to become the kind of woman who can love and still walk away from confusion. It is to become the kind of woman who doesn't beg for presence because she knows she deserves it. It is to become the kind of woman whose love is felt most when it is no longer freely available. And if they chase, it will not be because you played a game. It will be because you stopped playing the role of the one who always returns. You stopped cushioning their distance. You stopped making it easy for them to lose you without losing you. And whether they come back or not, you will finally stop chasing someone who is teaching you to chase, and you will start choosing a love that doesn't require you to run after it. Make your energy a privilege again, not a public service, because this is where most people lose themselves. They think love means unlimited access. They think being good means being endlessly available. They think if they keep showing warmth, even when they're getting uncertainty, the other person will eventually realize what they have and finally show up. But with an avoidant ex, unlimited access does not create value, it creates comfort. It creates the comfort of knowing they can drift and still return to you without earning you. It creates the comfort of receiving your loyalty while giving you inconsistency. And that is why this keynote is so powerful, because it isn't about becoming cold, it's about becoming intentional. It's about deciding that your presence is something people experience when they treat you well, not something they can access whenever they feel lonely. It's about shifting from, I hope you choose me, to I will only stay where I am chosen. A public service is available on demand. A public service keeps running even when no one respects it. A public service keeps giving even when it is being taken for granted. And if you've been in this dynamic, you know what that feels like. You reply quickly no matter how long they took. You reassure even when they withdraw. You keep the conversation alive even when they give one-word answers. You forgive without repair. You accept casual contact like it's commitment. You offer full emotional access to someone who isn't offering full emotional presence. You don't do that because you're foolish. You do that because you have a loyal heart, because you want love to win, because you want to be the safe place they finally stay. But the problem is, when your energy becomes a public service, you teach them that they don't have to rise to meet you. You teach them that effort is optional. You teach them that your standards are flexible, and then you wonder why they don't chase, why they don't value you, why they don't treat you like someone they could lose. So making your energy a privilege again starts with one internal decision. I am not available for half love. I can be kind, but I won't be easily accessed. I can be warm, but I won't be endlessly reachable. I can care, but I won't carry the connection alone. And this decision is not loud. It's not a dramatic announcement. It is a quiet shift in how you respond. Because this is where avoidants get comfortable in the predictable version of you. The version of you who always answers. The version of you who always forgives. The version of you who always makes it easier. The version of you who gives them emotional relief whenever they want it. And when you become a privilege, you stop being predictable in that role. You don't disappear to punish. You don't play mind games. You simply stop giving high access to low effort. So if they reach out casually, you don't explode with affection like you've been starving. You don't punish them either. You respond calmly, short, warm, but not wide open. Because your warmth is real, but access to your deeper energy requires consistency. You don't reward breadcrumbs like they are a banquet. You don't treat one message like a reconciliation. You let their effort build. You let their actions prove. You let time show you if they can actually show up. This is the part that feels emotional, because you will feel guilty at first. You will feel like you're being rude. You will feel like you're being cold. You will feel like you're losing them. But you're not losing them. You're losing the dynamic where they had you without earning you. And if that dynamic is the only thing keeping them near, then what you had was not love, it was convenience. A privilege means that people protect it. People invest in it. People show up for it. People don't treat it casually because they know it can be removed. And that is what you are teaching, not through threats, but through standards. Your energy is not something someone gets to consume when they're bored, lonely, or uncertain. Your energy is something someone earns through presence, effort, and respect. And you do this without losing your softness. You can still be kind. You can still be human. You can still be loving. But you stop being endlessly available. You stop being the emotional safety net for someone who keeps jumping without learning to walk. You stop being the backup plan. You stop being the place they return to when their options don't work out. Because the truth is, you are not a resting place for someone's indecision. You are a partner who deserves intention. So let's make this real. If they send you a late night, "I miss you," you don't treat it like commitment. You don't pour your heart out. You can respond with calm warmth, and then you watch what happens in the daylight. Do they make a plan? Do they show consistency? Do they follow through? Do they communicate with respect? Because anyone can miss you at night. The question is who chooses you in the morning. If they pop in after days of silence like nothing happened, you don't pretend it's normal. You don't fight either. You simply don't give them the same access they used to have. You let them feel the distance they created. You let them feel that you are not a door that stays open no matter how they treat it. You are a person with a heart, with standards, with a life. And if they want access again, the path is simple. They show up. They communicate. They become consistent. They don't just reach, they repair. They don't just flirt, they build. They don't just test the waters. They step into responsibility. That is what it means to make your energy a privilege. You are not asking them to chase in a childish way. You are asking them to participate like an adult. And here is the deepest part. When you treat your own energy as a privilege, you start valuing yourself differently. You stop needing their attention to feel okay. You stop measuring your worth by whether they miss you. You stop making your day depend on whether they reply. You become the person who is stable in her own presence, and that stability is magnetic. Avoidants are used to controlling distance, but they cannot control someone who does not over-give. They cannot keep someone who does not accept crumbs. They cannot manipulate someone whose love is warm, but not guaranteed. So make your energy a privilege again, not to punish, not to play games, to protect your heart, to return to your dignity, to teach your nervous system that love does not require you to be endlessly available to someone who is only occasionally present. And if they chase, it will be because they finally feel what it means to lose access to a woman who knows her worth. And if they don't chase, you still win, because you will no longer be a public service in your own love story. Upgrade your life in visible, real ways. And I need you to understand what this is, and what it is not. This is not you trying to make them jealous. This is not you posting to get a reaction. This is not you performing happiness while secretly breaking inside. This is you coming home to yourself after you've been living like your happiness depends on someone who can't hold it steadily. Because when you've been with an avoidant, your life can quietly shrink. Not all at once, not in a dramatic way, but slowly. You stop making plans because you're waiting to see if they'll reach out. You stop feeling excited about your goals because your mind is busy decoding their silence. You stop taking care of your body the way you used to because your nervous system is tired. You stop laughing as freely because there's always a question mark in the background. And one day you wake up and realize your world has been built around their inconsistency, like your life became a waiting room. So upgrading your life is not a tactic, it is your rescue. It is you deciding, I will not pause my destiny for someone's indecision. I will not keep postponing my joy until a person who runs from closeness finally stops running. I will not let someone's fear become the architect of my life. And here is why this creates chase without games. Because avoidants get comfortable when they think you are emotionally parked. They get comfortable when they believe you are still available in the background. They get comfortable when your energy is still orbiting them, even if you are not talking. They can feel it, the waiting, the hoping, the please come back. That energy is predictable. Predictability feels safe to them because it means they can retreat without losing you. But when your life upgrades, when your energy shifts, when you stop waiting and start living, the ground beneath them changes. It's not a threat, it's not a message, it's a reality. Suddenly, you are not the same person sitting at the door. Suddenly, you are not easily accessible. Suddenly, you look and feel like someone who is moving forward. And movement is the one thing they can't control. Because your growth creates a kind of silence that speaks. It says, I'm not collapsing, I'm not begging, I'm not stuck, I'm becoming. And that is what makes them curious, because avoidants often chase what they fear losing, not what they already have. When you are upgrading your life, you become harder to take for granted because your energy is no longer sitting still. Now let's talk about what visible, real ways actually means. It means you build routines that stabilize you. You clean up your sleep. You move your body, not to punish it, but to honor it. You feed yourself like you deserve to be strong. You invest in your appearance, not to prove anything, but because you remember you are allowed to feel confident. You take care of the little things you stopped caring about when your heart got tired. You reconnect with your friendships because you stopped isolating. You go back to your goals because you stopped living on pause. You create a calendar that doesn't revolve around whether they text. And in the beginning, it will feel like you're faking it. It will feel like your heart is heavy while your body is trying to move. It will feel like you're smiling while you're hurting. But this is the difference. You're not performing happiness for them. You're building strength for you. You're not trying to look okay. You're trying to become okay. Because upgrading your life is how you break the addiction to relief. Relief is when they reply. Relief is when they come back. Relief is when they show warmth again and your nervous system calms down. But relief is not love. Relief is the end of panic. And when your life is empty, you will keep seeking relief from them because your body has nowhere else to go. But when your life becomes full again, your nervous system stops begging for them to regulate you because you have a life that holds you. And that is the moment you become magnetic. Not because you became perfect, but because you became stable. You became alive again. You became someone whose presence feels like light, not like need. Avoidants are often afraid of being needed, because need feels like pressure. But aliveness feels like freedom. And when you upgrade your life, you carry freedom. You carry fullness. You carry the energy of someone who wants love, but is not desperate for it. This is why it makes them chase without games. Because your life moving is the strongest boundary. It says, your silence does not stop my joy. Your distance does not stop my growth. Your uncertainty does not stop my future. And that message, even if you never say it, becomes visible in the way you show up. It becomes visible in your posture. It becomes visible in your eyes. It becomes visible in the way you stop reacting to every little shift in their behavior. It becomes visible in the way you don't drop everything when they send a message. And that is what avoidants notice. They notice that you're not as easily pulled back into the old dynamic. They notice that your energy is no longer waiting on their approval. They notice that your life is not centered around them. And suddenly, they feel what they rarely let themselves feel, the fear of losing something real. But I need to protect your heart here, because the purpose is not to make them chase, the purpose is to make you whole. Because if you upgrade your life only to get them back, you are still handing them control. You are still making your growth conditional. You are still saying, I will become better if you choose me. But if you upgrade your life because you choose you, then no matter what they do, you win. So you let your life become so full that their absence is not a disaster. It's just information. You let your days become so meaningful that you're not sitting by the phone. You let your goals become so alive that you remember who you were before this connection made you doubt yourself. You build a version of you that doesn't need to chase because she is too busy living. And when an avoidant sees that, one of two things happens. If they have real feelings and any capacity to grow, they will step forward because they feel the shift and they don't want to lose access to the woman who is rising. And if they don't step forward, if they stay distant, then your upgraded life becomes your salvation because it carries you away from a cycle that would have kept you waiting for crumbs. So upgrade your life in real ways. Not loud, not fake, not performative, real. Because the moment you stop making them the center of your story, you become the kind of woman who is chased naturally, not because she played games, but because she stopped pausing her life for someone who couldn't meet her there. Respond with calm, not urgency, because urgency is the language of fear, and fear is exactly what keeps an avoidant in control. Urgency says, please choose me right now so I can breathe again. Urgency says, your reply decides my mood. Urgency says, I need this to be fixed today or I will fall apart. And you may never say those words, but your nervous system says them through quick responses, long paragraphs, double texts, immediate reassurance, and emotional flooding the moment they appear again. And I want you to hear this with compassion, because you weren't urgent because you were weak. You were urgent because you were hurting. You were urgent because inconsistency creates anxiety, and anxiety makes the smallest signal feel like an emergency. When an avoidant ex disappears, you feel abandoned. When they pop back in, you feel relief. And relief is addictive because it quiets the panic. So your body learns to sprint toward them the moment they show up, because it thinks, this is the moment I can finally feel safe again. But calm is the opposite of that. Calm says, my peace is not for sale. Calm says, I can miss you without chasing you. Calm says, I can respond without collapsing into the old dynamic. Calm says, I'm not here to be activated by your inconsistency. And that calm is what changes everything, because it removes the reward your ex gets from popping in and out. Avoidants often return in a way that tests you, not always consciously, but the pattern does. They send a casual message. They react to your story. They drop a. They send a late night, I miss you. And if you respond with urgency, if you respond like someone who has been starving, you teach them something. You teach them that they can disappear and still come back to full access. You teach them that your boundaries melt the moment they knock. You teach them that they don't have to repair, they just have to reappear. So calm is not ignoring. Calm is not pretending you don't care. Calm is you refusing to reward breadcrumbs with a feast. Calm is you taking a breath before you respond. Calm is you keeping your reply simple. Calm is you not turning a message into a monologue. Calm is you letting their effort rise first, instead of rushing to prove you're still available. And this is where people get confused, because they think calm means being slow on purpose, being distant on purpose, acting like you're busy to create scarcity. That would be a game. Calm is not a performance. Calm is simply emotional regulation. It is you responding from self-respect instead of anxiety. It is you refusing to let your fear drive the car, because the truth is, the avoidant ex is not only watching what you say, they are watching what your energy communicates. If your energy says, I'm still here, I'm still waiting, I still need you, they feel pressure, and they also feel power. Pressure because they don't want to be responsible for your emotions, and power because they know they can still pull you. And that combination makes them withdraw again, because it's too much responsibility and too much control at the same time. But when your energy is calm, when your reply is steady, something changes inside them. There is no drama to blame. There is no flood to escape. There is no urgency to run from. They can't say, you're too intense because you're calm. They can't say, you're pressuring me because you're not pushing. All they feel is the reality that you are not as easily accessible as before, not because you're playing a role, but because you've grown. So let's make it real. They message you after silence. Calm means you don't respond like nothing happened, and you also don't respond like you want to punish them. You respond like someone who respects herself. Warm, brief, grounded. You don't rush into emotional intimacy. You don't reopen your whole heart in one text. You allow them to show consistency over time, because consistency is what heals the rupture, not one message. Calm means if they try to pull you into late night nostalgia, you don't get hypnotized. You don't pour out your feelings in the dark. You don't confuse intimacy with timing. You keep it simple. You let them earn a real conversation in the light. You let them step into responsibility, instead of rewarding them for being lonely. Calm means you don't accept vague. If they say, we should talk sometime, you don't chase the details. You don't become the planner, the fixer, the bridge. You let them lead with clarity. Because someone who truly wants you will make the plan clear. Someone who is just testing will keep it vague. Calm is you letting the vagueness hang until they either bring reality or they fade. And yes, your heart will protest. Your heart will say, but what if I lose them? And I need you to answer your heart with truth. If calm makes you lose them, you are only keeping them through anxiety. If you have to be urgent to keep someone, you are not in a relationship, you are in a chase. And you deserve more than a chase. Calm also protects you from repeating the cycle. Because even if they come back, if you rush, you will recreate the same dynamic, closeness, relief, hope, and then distance again when they feel overwhelmed. But if you respond with calm, you create a new pattern. You pace the reconnection. You require effort. You require consistency. You let trust be rebuilt slowly, like it should be. And that is where the emotional power is. You stop treating their message like salvation. You stop treating their return like proof. You start treating it like an opening. And you decide whether it is safe to walk through. You stop being the one who makes it easy for them to come back without changing. You stop being the one who turns a breadcrumb into a relationship. So calm means you are kind, but you are not instantly available. Calm means you are open, but you are not easily accessed. Calm means you respond, but you don't chase. Calm means you listen, but you don't get pulled into emotional labor again. And the reason this makes an avoidant chase without games is because it removes the reward of control. When your urgency disappears, their power disappears. When your anxiety stops feeding the cycle weakens. And in that quiet space, they either step forward with real effort, or they step away because they can't maintain the old pattern. Either way, calm gives your dignity back. Calm gives your nervous system back. Calm gives you your life back, because you stop living at the mercy of their timing, and you start living like a woman who knows that love is not something you beg for in panic. It's something you meet with steadiness, and if someone cannot meet you there, you don't punish them. You simply don't return to the version of you that was willing to be half-loved. Choose a standard and stick to it, because this is the line that turns your heart from a waiting room into a home. This is the line that separates a woman who keeps getting pulled back into the same cycle from a woman who finally changes the outcome, not by controlling them, but by protecting herself. And I know standards can sound harsh when you're emotional, because when you love someone, your instinct is to soften everything. You want to give chances. You want to understand. You want to believe the best. You want to keep the door open, because closing it feels like losing hope. But hear me, hope without standards becomes self-abandonment. Hope without standards becomes you accepting things you'd never accept if your heart wasn't attached. Hope without standards becomes you calling breadcrumbs progress. Hope without standards becomes you shrinking your needs until you can fit inside someone else's comfort zone. And eventually, you don't even recognize yourself, because you've been bending so much that your spine forgets how to stand. A standard is not a threat. A standard is a decision about what love is allowed to feel like in your life. A standard is you saying, I will not build a relationship in confusion. I will not be kept in limbo. I will not accept disappearing as normal. I will not accept late night intimacy with daytime absence. I will not accept being someone's option while I treat them like a priority. And you don't need to shout it. You don't need to announce it in a speech. You don't need to punish anyone with it. You live it. And that is the part people don't understand. Standards are not what you say. Standards are what you enforce with calm consistency. The avoidant ex will test you, not always consciously, but the dynamic does. They will return casually. They will offer warmth in small doses. They will say, I miss you, without saying I'm ready to show up. They will try to step back into your life through the easiest door, the door of your hope. And if your standard is weak, you will open that door wide because your heart is craving relief. But if your standard is real, you will pause, and you will ask for reality, not romance. So let's make this painfully practical. Your standard could be, I don't do vague. That means if they reach out with, we should talk sometime. You don't chase the plan. You don't become the organizer. You don't do the emotional labor to make their interest real. You respond calmly, and you let them either bring clarity or fade. Because if they cannot bring clarity, they cannot bring a relationship. You are not punishing. You are simply refusing to carry what they won't hold. Your standard could be, I don't do disappearing. That means if they vanish for days, and then return like nothing happened, you don't pretend it's normal just because you missed them. You don't explode. You don't argue. You simply adjust access. You let them feel that your life is not a revolving door. You require repair. You require accountability. And if they can't do that, then they can't have the same level of closeness. Because closeness without repair is how your heart gets trained to accept disrespect. Your standard could be, I don't do crumbs. That means if they offer a little attention just to keep you attached, you don't reward it like it's commitment. You don't pour out your heart in response to a breadcrumb. You don't re-enter the relationship emotionally because they flirted. You require consistent effort over time. You let the pattern prove itself. Because love is not a moment. Love is a pattern. And here is the emotional truth. Sticking to a standard is hard because it requires you to tolerate discomfort. It requires you to tolerate the empty space where you used to chase. It requires you to tolerate the fear of losing them. It requires you to tolerate the ache of not responding the way you used to. Because a standard forces you to face the withdrawal, the part of you that was addicted to relief, the part of you that felt calm only when they were close. But a standard is how you heal that addiction. A standard teaches your nervous system that peace does not come from their attention. Peace comes from your alignment. Peace comes from you doing what you said you would do. Peace comes from you being loyal to yourself. And the reason this makes an avoidant chase, without games, is because it removes the comfort of half access. It removes the option of keeping you with minimal effort. It removes the ability to drift and still return to full warmth. Suddenly, if they want you, they have to participate. Suddenly, if they want closeness, they have to show up. Suddenly, if they want access to your heart, they have to handle it with care. And yes, that can make them chase, because chasing is often what happens when someone realizes they can lose something valuable. But even more important, it makes you safe. It keeps you from being pulled back into a cycle that keeps breaking you in small pieces. Now, let me say something that will protect your heart. A standard is not the same as an ultimatum. An ultimatum is trying to control their behavior. A standard is controlling your own response. You're not saying, you must do this or else. You're saying, if this is what you do, this is what I will allow, and this is what I will not. And that is the healthiest kind of power, because it doesn't rely on them changing. It relies on you staying true. This is why people who stick to standards become unforgettable, because they are not easily accessed. They are not easily manipulated. They are not easily pulled into chaos. They are warm, but they are not available for disrespect. They are open, but they are not a public resource. They are loving, but they will not be half loved. And here comes the most emotional part. You have to be willing to lose what doesn't meet your standard. Because if your standard is real, it will cost you something. It will cost you the fantasy. It will cost you the version of love that survives on hope and crumbs. It will cost you the comfort of staying connected even when it's hurting you. It will cost you the habit of waiting. But what it gives you is everything. It gives you your dignity. It gives you your peace. It gives you your self-respect. It gives you back the woman you were before you started negotiating for basic effort. So choose a standard and stick to it, not with anger, not with drama, with calm consistency. Because the day you stop bending your needs to keep someone near is the day you become the kind of woman who is either met with real effort or not met at all, and both outcomes are better than being kept in a half relationship that slowly teaches you to accept less than you deserve.